Hello guys, it's May 2019. I had to actually look at my computer to see the date, and it's the 1st of May today, and it's Danlos syndrome awareness month. So literally the Danlos syndrome groups like I haven't got the, in fact I shall put it up in front of me. So basically, if you want to understand what Danlos syndrome is, then type in EHLERSDANLOS and syndrome, and it will bring up Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is a connective tissue disorder. Symptoms include loosened joints, joint pain, stretchy skin, abnormal scar information. Complications include words are just so complicated. You know, one of the things that I find so tedious and so hard about living with a condition that involves being involved with hospitals and medical people and service providers and users and things like that is everything has this weird name or things like that. So anyway, some guy called Ehlers and some guy called Danlos basically did a lot of research and came up with a connective tissue disorder, and it was coined Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And I have this connective tissue disorder mutation that they talk about that is now named as EDS. So it's EDS Awareness Month, and basically the people through the EDS community tell their story, and they bring around some form of change and do a lot of stuff through May. That, you know, they'll apply to Parliament, they'll get petitions out just to get some more understanding about EDS. And one of the reasons I want to talk about EDS is because of the problems with social services, and my story pretty much talks about that. So anyway, this video is purely for EDS Awareness Month, and this will be my contribution to the EDS community. So hello, my name is EDS. My name isn't EDS, my name is Kelly Cottam, and the condition that I'm diagnosed with is EDS, which is comorbid with Asperger's syndrome. It basically means that I live with a lot of pain. It's really, really difficult to describe, because basically where your joints stay together with your ligaments, so your ligaments here basically hold all your joints together. My muscles have to hold my joints together because the ligaments don't really work because they're so overstretched. So they're like an elastic band, and if you get an elastic band, you keep pulling it, it goes really white. My ligaments are like that, so the muscles have to work like 10 times harder than anything else to try to keep my body stable, which your body doesn't have to do. So it gives me a lot of tension, headaches up and around here in my neck, and I get a lot of headaches all the time. I get what's called, it has a bit of a name within our community, but it's called brain fog. And sometimes I sort of go off and I just get a bit scatterbrain in my own head because I'm dealing with like so much pain that I sort of like just drift off or can't cope. I've actually got my glasses here today because I really wanted to hide, and I really feel like hiding today. So forgive me for wearing my glasses. The reason I've got my glasses on is because it's been a really mask wearing day today, and had a lot of emotion and a lot of things today. So anyway, one of the challenges with EDS is relationships and communicating our needs and why we have to live differently and why it's really important that we manage our DS. So I said that this month I'm going to work through this little management book and talk about what works, what doesn't work, and go through my pip form. But I want to actually use this video just to tell my little story. So forgive me while I wear glasses because there's a lot of emotion and I'm trying to hold back the tears, and if I can hold back the tears that don't have to come down here, then it's fine. So just deal with me. And also I've got some really, really, really sore eyes at the moment. So anyway, this is my EDS story. So I was born here. In fact, actually my Aunt Alison might be able to add to some of this and help me with something as I just start this, because she might be the person who knows. So I was born here in Portsmouth. I was born to my mum, who had a caesarean section. I had a cord wrapped around my neck and I was jaundiced. I was also extremely floppy, and this is where my Aunt Alison and I have had a conversation, and she says that as I was a baby, I was a very, very floppy baby. But I think because there was so much like, who raises the child, where's the baby going to go, that nobody really sort of deemed it necessarily as a problem or anything like that. But and I don't think it ever really was necessarily a problem until I remember I was about 7 years old, and all I did was flips or gymnastic moves, majorettes, martial arts, things like that. I was very, 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 very active from the ages of like 5 to 11. I could probably even tell you my entire timetable all the way through school, from netball, martial arts, majorettes, carnivals and stuff like that with school and things like that. But I could always like put my legs behind my head, things like that, and I was always able to sort of like do really spacky things with my fingers and things like that, and things were just a little bit abnormal, and I always had tummy problems. Always had bowel problems, bowel flu as the doctor would call it. But the thing is, when I got to about, I think it was about 10, and I started having problems at school with things like my knees and my fingers, and writing at school and sitting at the desk for a long time at school. And I started getting into a little bit of trouble because I would sort of stand my ground that I wasn't lying. And I really hate being called a liar. Like, I seriously hate being called a liar. It is the one thing that gets my back up, because EDS and any struggle that I have is very personal to me. The only reason I talk about the condition and how it goes, because it's not just me that struggles with this. It's not just me that's had the problem with my family. It's not just me that's had the problems with school. It's not just me that's had problems with doctors. It's not just me that's had problems going to A&E. And it's not just me that's had problems with social services. It's not just me that's the inconvenience to my family and friends. Actually, it's pretty much most of the people dealing with this condition, and it's something that we run under a private system. We're not governed so much by the NHS. There are people within the NHS that are trained within this condition, but the majority of them are private. And one of the challenges that I had is Professor Bird, who I was under in 2010, retired. And when he retired, we were all kicked out of the system, as were many of us. So it has to be talked about. It has to be talked about because a lot of us are losing our kids. It has to be talked about because a lot of us are being sectioned under the Mental Health Act. It has to be talked about because children of 11, 12, 13 are growing up being sectioned under the Mental Health Act. Children of 10, 11, 12 are growing up being expelled from school. Children of 10, 11, 12, 13 are constantly going back to the doctors and then having their children being taken by social services because their parents are being diagnosed with like Munchausen's and things like that. There's 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old children that are being medically abused within the education system because they are pleading with needs that are going on, sitting on chairs in severe pain, struggling with writing, struggling to sit for long periods of time, needing to get up and walk about, needing to go to the toilet more than most people, feeling aches and pains and needing to crack their joints, maybe having to do things like this every sort of few minutes or hours because their body feels very tight, very stiff, very uncomfortable, and it feels like this all the fucking time. If I explain to you as I'm talking to you right now that the strain in my eye to my eye sockets feels really sore, really tired, and the size of my lids, obviously if I just show you very quickly, obviously with being an EDSer, I can turn my eyelids inside out. I have blue sclerosa, as my children do, because the thinning around the eyes is quite thin, and the icicle socket slightly sits back, and I have Ehlers, as people see. I tear in here all the time. Always as a kid, always have mouth ulcers. And if you look at my teeth, they're really bad. And my teeth are broken. And these are all cracked and broken. I actually didn't help having a tongue piercing bar for a bit. But and if you listen to my jaw, like literally, it's called TM joints or something. I literally, all on the inside of this joint here, I completely scraped it and I have no cartilage whatsoever. And in fact, the paramedics fucking broke my jaw when Aaron and Faith were taken, because, like I said, this is part of my journey, so it will all get unravelled over the space of the EDS Awareness Month. So if you're here with me right now, it's Ehlers Danlos Syndrome Awareness Month, and this is my EDS story. I was just saying that this particular jaw, I had the paramedics come out to me as I was warning people that I was going into A&E and I needed childcare. That was all I needed was childcare. And it was in the back of my neck. This is another challenge that we have. It's called Chiari malformation, and it basically means we're a nodding dog. So within here and around here, it doesn't stabilise in the same way as I was explaining. The ligaments don't hold, and obviously there's not strong muscles around here to keep it all in place. And basically, like sometimes, I don't know if anybody's ever watched the 6 videos that I did for breaking my gag when I was facing my commute to prison. But halfway through, we kept having to cut out because halfway through the video, my head's going, and I'm having to sit there to keep my head plonked up. And it literally does, it tires so much. So sometimes if I'm just chilling at night, I just sort of like sit and rest. And I'm, in fact, actually an EDS thing, and I've noticed my kids do it as well. When we sleep, we actually sleep with our hands sort of backwards, or even resting, and people notice that my feet are tucked under, and just little things that are comfortable to us that aren't comfortable to other people. But as I was saying, with the paramedic, I ended up having a slit discs in my neck, and the staff at Save Family told them that I didn't have EDS, that EDS was the easiest condition to claim to have, and that I'd lost my kids and I was having a breakdown. So literally they ripped the gas and air out my mouth, pinked my tooth across the floor, bust all my jaw, carried me out by my belt. And it was absolutely foul and disgusting. And I said, even if it was mental health, then that's not the only way to treat anybody, whether it be mental health or EDS, you know. But they bust my hip. I actually kicked the paramedic because she freaking was hurting me. Bust my jaw. And I've had this happen to me a lot of times. And this is one of the biggest problems that's part of my EDS journey. So whenever you go to A&E for EDS, it doesn't show up on normal x-rays like other people, because sometimes, like, I've got a lamp behind me, I'll probably knock it. So say this ulnar bone, right, I'm forever pulling my ulnar bone out. It drives me nuts because it goes from the elbow across to into your wrist here, and it's just like a little flimsy little solid little thing. And I'll tell you what, when it goes, it's horrible, because I'll just be like this with my hand and my hand will be shaking, and the pain is absolutely excruciating. And then you sit in A&E and you're in absolute agony, and I've always got kids, or I've got to pick kids up from school, I've got to drive, or I've got to do something, and I've never had family around me to sort of say, look, I've got to go to A&E, can you, like, even when I went through fucking cervical C, I never had family and stuff to sort of say, could you like have the kids while I stick my legs up in stirrups and have a coagulation and shit done. But, you know, when you're in A&E and like sitting in A&E and you're waiting and you look so normal and people just think it's in your head all the time. And then the worst thing is you then see the doctor, and the doctor feels around and he can't really feel anything, and you're wanting to punch living shits out of him because he's squeezing down on your arm and he's fucking killing you. And they're looking at you as if to go, and you know what's going, and they go onto your notes, and then they see the amount of times you've gone to E&E where they've done scans, there's been nothing wrong, boom, 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 boom. And you have to have an MRI scan. And the problem with MRI scans is they put fluid into it that opens it up into a proper space. And for me, it puts it into a natural alignment and position. So we have upright MRI scans, and it's only just come into the UK. It's what goes on in America. So what would happen to me is I would go to A&E and they take me to the fucking mental health psych units. And literally, I spent the age 11, the age 13, the age 15, 15, I finally went into care. The age 16, the age 17, the age 18, and the age 19. In fact, here I have, as this is about Ehlers Danlos Syndrome Awareness Month, and this is about awareness, making our invisible visible, I have here the index of my medical notes. This is just the index. This is just literally the index. Where is it? It's probably backwards. Where is it? I've probably got this backwards, or it's upside down, that's why. This is the index for my medical notes. In fact, it's got some of Faith's at the beginning of it, which, likely Ehlers Danlos syndrome. Yeah, because apparently my children didn't have EDS, and apparently it's the easiest condition for anyone to claim to have. So I will just actually read you this top copy that was done on the 5th, just for the record. This was done on the 5th of February 2011. My children were taken on the 13th of December 2012, using evidence to say that EDS was the easiest condition to claim to have, that I didn't have it, my children didn't have it, and the fact that I'd picked up my son the way that I did when I'd hurt my back was just an excuse, and basically just called it abuse. So anyway, listen to this. I'll even show you the proof of it. So this is 1 year prior to them being taken, and it says it's from a consultant ophthalmologist at Preston Royal Hospital, and it's to our doctor, and it's reference Faith. And it says possible Ehlers Danlos syndrome, blue square, strong family history. You asked me to see this 11-month-old child. Mum has Ehlers Danlos syndrome. So do her 3 brothers. Faith was born at 36-week gestation and doing well. Where is it? She has blue sclerosa, and it's because it's a long letter. And it says here, a long discussion. I do think that Faith's blue sclerosa is more bluer than the others. However, as she grows older, it will come. Hence, to reassess her at 12. It's a long letter. I get so bored of these things. But if I just show you very quickly, because it's all these complicated words. It says very, 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 very clearly there. This is my old address, so it doesn't matter. That Faith had EDS, and so do I. So basically, for the entire length of my life and many people with EDS, it has taken years and years and years for us to receive the correct diagnosis, because what basically happens is no person is diagnosed until after 5 anyway, which is the most ridiculous thing, because the first 5 years are so fundamental to make sure that, one, when they come into the world, so like me with a cord wrapped around my neck, upside down, jaundice, I should have received correct care there and then to make sure that I'd lived quite a full functional life and didn't have the problems that I have. And the problem is children aren't diagnosed at the time, and even if a parent is diagnosed, there's a 50-50 chance of every child getting EDS, so they're not diagnosed. And this is another thing that has to be discussed during EDS awareness, is that at the end of the day, a child that's born with EDS is born with it. It doesn't take 5 years to become the name of it if they're born with it. So to early diagnose, one, would stop actual trauma happening to necks and our shoulders, as with Liam popping his shoulder when he was born. Obviously, mother's complication with EDS is high risk pregnancy immediately. We tear, we hemorrhage, we don't go to full term. Majority of us have had the babies a month early. Hips go, pelvis goes, ribs, constant problems, gastro issues, bowel, baby hemorrhage, piles and prolapses after. It's a real, if you're going to have, one, you're taking on the chance that your child's going to be 50-50 EDS, and knowing that you're going to pass on these challenges to your child is a risk in itself, and it really, really is. It's something you should really have genetic counselling over, because you are potentially giving your child suffering for the rest of their life, which is really selfish and taking a 50-50 chance. None of my children have been planned. I have been on the pill. I have been on coil. The Lord has obviously intervened and decided I should have my children. Was advised I should never ever have children. Pelvis can't take it, knees can't take it, hips can't take it. I have full-blown spondylosis down my spine. My spine is completely curved. I have a broken coccyx. Sublots right pelvis. My knee is completely busted. I could actually stand up and completely show you some of it. Ankles don't hold in place, even my toes don't. I'm actually really renowned for stairs. Stairs are a fucking bugger with me. And sometimes, if you don't know me and you don't realise, and I'll sometimes struggle when I shouldn't do, but when I put my foot down, sometimes it just decides to go bump, and I'm renowned for toppling over and falling over. In fact, my children fall over a lot, and I fall over a lot because our ankles just go. So I've got tibialis flat feet as well. My toes spread out and do these sort of things, so that goes on a lot. The ligaments from the toes through to the ankles do the same as that. Ankles, so I'm a netball player as well, and I love netball. I love netball all my life. I played for county all the way through school, but I was always going over on my ankles. I was always putting my fingers back. I was always having accidents. I was always being injured. I was athletics as well, so I competed for my county, I competed for school, I competed for nationals. I went to throw a javelin and completely pulled my shoulder out. I ran a relay race and ended up with complete and utter shin splints and fractured from my bone up to my knee. Always had bowel bleeding. I'm renowned for going through so much freaking toilet roll and blocking the toilets all the time. One of the big secrets on, if you really, 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 really want to make EDS visible, then that means that every EDS person has to put their hands up for doing what we call manual evacuation of bowels, which means that we have to encourage and help. Many actually have a bowel bag, because what basically happens, if you imagine this, like your bowel from out this side, and then what happens is your bowel moves like this to encourage everything to go through. We don't have that. So we also have catheters. I had a suprapubic catheter. Let me explain my catheter journey, because it's really, really, really funny. So I ended up with going into A&E when I was about 23 with my belly looking like I was 9 months pregnant. I couldn't wait. I was retaining water like mad, and they had to put a catheter in and let it out, and then all of a sudden I had a catheter bag on strapped to my leg, and it was the coolest thing ever, because it meant I could go on really long journeys and empty them into Lucozade bottles, and I could just carry on driving without to stop going to services while the kids slept. And also in the winter I could keep my feet warm on it, because it was a really nice hot water bottle. And I once went to a club, and this is when I had the suprapubic catheter on, so it's the one that doesn't have the bag attached. And I went into the club, and the queue for the women's toilets was so bad that I went into the male toilets, and I had jacket and trouser suit on, and I unzipped, put my hands around my suprapubic catheter, went into the urinal, and zipped up and walked out. And it was rather funny. I got lots of looks all that night. It was really, really, really funny. I'm sure there's many people out there that battling with transgender that probably don't find it funny that somebody would find a woman having a wee in the urinals. So that was my catheter journey. It used to bleed a lot. My ex-husband Graham used to change it at night because it used to get infections. It used to bleed. But I was on like 800 mils of tramadol. I was on morphine tablets, morphine pain patches. Then at 23, I went over to cannabis oil, went over to CBD's oil, went through that whole journey as well like that. And then literally it's been a whole roller coaster with going into A&E, having things done in A&E when basically you get to A&E, then you have to explain you have EDS. I also have vocal cord dysfunction. So if I go to ENS, I actually have I think it's in my wallet. I actually have 2 little cards that have this on it, and it basically says vocal cord dysfunction that I hand to somebody if this goes. So if you hear, sometimes I go really echoey, and it's this. So it's basically my airways here. If you can hear me, I can do it like this, or it can go back like this, or go like this, which we can all do. But for me, it sort of sits there, and it's sort of like, so yeah. So basically, the reason that we're doing the thing that we're doing this year, is that I wasn't diagnosed until I was 22. And the reason that I wasn't diagnosed is because when you're a child and you talk to people around you and you try to explain the sort of things that we do, the common reaction is, ugh. And when you're a child who's parents going through divorce or anything like that, then it's constantly called attention-seeking behaviour. When you get to 11 or 12, doctors always call it growing pains. When you get to 18, 19, and you've been through sexual child abuse, as I did, again, they put it down to body breakdown. I had my first child at just turned 18. They didn't know I had EDS, and I hemorrhaged when he was 37 weeks. Same happened with Daniel, both waters breaking. In fact, Daniel, I went in and out of labour from 29 weeks. I wasn't diagnosed with EDS then. Again, going backwards and forwards to the doctors. And then Liam was 2 years old, and he was on a bouncy castle and he dislocated his shoulder. I then had social services and the health visitor and the doctors, and Liam was referred to a consultant, and the consultant confirmed that he had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and then I was pulled in, and also at the same time my mum was seeing a chiropodist for her feet, and they were discussing Ehlers-Danlos syndrome with her. Now, we've never come together as a family to deal with it. It's a very, very personal battle because it prevents us from doing a lot of the things that we really enjoy doing. I love dancing. I have a very natural talent and passion for dancing, but unfortunately my hip pops, my knee pops, and when we call it hip hop dancing, it's not quite the hip hop dancing that I would like to be able to do. And also my hamstrings at the back of my legs are too tight and too short, and in order for me to maintain any form of proper normality in my body, I'd have to work with a personal trainer like 5 times a freaking day sort of thing. Like, seriously, my physio program to actually maintain some form of normal existence is high core, proper core stability that you have to zip in, zip out every hour. I used to have to literally run my phone on my alarm to, like, I've maintained proper health. And obviously people know I was an escort, and it was during my escorting days because I was able to pay for a physical trainer. I was able to pay for all my supplements. I was able to pay for all of my private health rather than going through the NHS, and I really did maintain. Even my nan said before she died it was the best she'd seen me, and it was only because of the money. They sold my soul to the devil, did I? But I think I've nearly brought it back. If not that you can buy your fucking soul back, but I'm open and honest and transparent. So I went, I forgive the Lord, forgive me for my sins a long time ago. So it's me that's had the battle with forgiveness. Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges with this has been literally those 3 sort of things. Line attention seeker. What's the other one? My son's going to walk past in a minute. Shit, my head's just wobbled. Growing pains, and just basically just having to go through lots of different diagnoses. So like, when I was 19, I was breastfeeding Liam. One of the challenges with EDS is that you produce more prolactin, and it causes more injury. And I was in the car waiting for my nan, and literally, again, my neck went. And this is what started all the journey. My neck went, ended up in A&E, got diagnosed with a conversion disorder. They said that my body had broken down. Again, had I been diagnosed, then it would have been, isn't that good-looking lad walking in behind me? happens to be my son, also another one of the genetic people of my bloodline. Yeah, so again, that took us down to mental health again. And in fact, it actually took me into a mental health unit and for 11 weeks. And my son was taken off my breast, had social and all that again. And then I lived quite clear. I got really unwell, in and out of a wheelchair for a bit, problems with my knee, more problems trying to manage the medication, the willpower, and not really understanding what was going on with my body. And also getting told a lot of stuff and having people telling me that I can do this and I can't do that. And I think it did start playing with my mental health, but more because I found it really frustrating because I used to run. I mean, I've always been a up at 5:30 person, out, and then it would become gradual where the mornings would take over and the mountains would be harder and the mind would be willing and the body wouldn't be, and then it came aches and pains, and literally from the moment you wake up in the morning it's like having a constant freaking hangover, because part of EDS is POTS, and when you go from laying down to upright we don't clock properly. So you get a bit of head rush, you feel a bit dizzy, a bit lightheaded. So anyway, sort of wake up in the morning, it can take a little bit of a conversion, and sometimes you sort of want to get yourself up and about. I used to have a lady who used to come in, and she used to come in at about 7:30, and I used to hear, "Good morning," and I used to be like, "No, this I can't really do this." And it's just literally because the muscles are contracting all the time. And when they lay back during the night, and then you're trying to sort of pull your joints back into place, but the ligaments aren't, your brain's telling your joints to do it, but your ligaments aren't quite doing it. And your muscles are saying, "Oh, I'm too tired and I don't want to quite do it yet." And then the grating starts, and then the popping starts, and then the air pockets start, and then you feel defeated before you've even got up, and you sort of think, yeah, I'll just sort of stay here for the day. It's going to be a drama day. I can't fight this today. And then you sort of like switch into a different mode, and my phone's just fallen over. Yeah, and then you sort of get a bit frustrated, like today, I haven't got the willpower to deal with, because I cooked today and I've been on my feet and I haven't had the willpower to tidy up, sort things out. So then that will chog into tomorrow. So then when I get up tomorrow, I then know I've got to do that. So it becomes double mountain. And then you get to the point where you get really annoyed with it, and you get annoyed with your body, and you get annoyed with it, and you go back into this cycle, because then you start like rhinoceros and ploughing through it, and then you tire and exhaust yourself out again. And then you have to sort of like have a bit of a break again and re-pick your body up, and it's all the time. What people don't realise is EDS is not for the moment. It's not just something that you just go to the doctors and you've got this condition and you're going to take a pill and you're going to be all right in a minute. It's 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 364 days a year, every year, day in, day out, and it's classed as a degenerative condition. My sister, however, calls it a self-healing condition, and I love that. But the fact is, it's a degenerative condition, and it gets tiring and a bit more exhausting, and I'm 41 now, and you really got to have the willpower to maintain consistent daily activities, daily health, daily living, eliminating all bread and dairy, eliminating wheat from your body, taking aloe vera juice, living off kale, spinach, pulses, wheat, living quite a vegan, vegetarian life, but also having high red meat, because we're meant to be carnivores, meat eaters, and it reproduces the collagen. No coffee, no tea, no pastas, nothing like that. No coffee, no tea, no sugars. Not that anybody should be having these things anyway, but yeah, to live really consistent and actually having a proper schedule, living as if you're a professional sports person, training to make sure that you're keeping daily activity, health and stuff like that. So, yeah, and then also each day, just, I don't know, is it going to be the hip and knee thing? So, yeah, so this month is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome awareness month. My crack book is going to be, and Twitter and stuff is going to be about EDS, and going to be going through little different things on this. I'm going to be looking at some stuff because there's been some reclassification, and I'm going to be getting on the phone and talking to the specialists and seeing what they've got to say, doing my pit form, and that's going to be on Monday morning. I'm going to literally go, no, what day are we on now? We're on Wednesday. Probably on Friday. So probably Friday afternoon, I'll start going through that and then working through it over the weekend, ready to get it off on Monday. And speak to the housing officer because I'm going to give her a bit of an education on EDS as well. And yeah, and hopefully this month it won't take too much toll on me, because one of the problems about talking about it all the time is you manifest it all the time. So as I always say, I have EDS. It has me. Sometimes we dance. And today and yesterday, I felt like dancing. And I'm going to be picking up and trying to put together a proper core health and well-being program for people with EDS, and doing that as part of my work thing. And yes, I am 41 this year. I'm sure I'm 41. Yeah, I was 40 last year, so I'm 41 this year. And a grandmother. I love being a grandmother. Do you know how cool you've made me? I'm like the coolest young grandmother. Not as young as most people, but I love it when people say you don't look old enough to be a grandmother. I go, oh, I'm not. It's really flattering. It's lovely. Yeah. So hopefully if I can put this together properly, then there's a lot of other people who will, rather than focusing on what they can't do, they will focus on what they can do and put some form of bridge in place. So rather than focus on being disabled, being enabled. And unfortunately, a lot of that comes from strict health living, strict physical activity, and being in line with who you are and what you love, really, because your body is actually naturally designed. Like, I should have done gymnastics and stuff as a kid and pro danced and stuff. My body would have been really cool with that had I had lived like properly eating and things like that. So so this month I don't want to be like this whingy whiny ouch my body. So what I'll be doing is saying, I have EDS, it has me, and right now I don't feel like dancing, or I feel like dancing. Because one thing I will say to anybody who lives with a condition is be really, really careful who you talk about to it, who you share your genuine struggles with, because what you speak about, you bring about. So if you constantly sit there saying, I'm so ill or I'm in so much pain, then you'll constantly manifest and focus on being ill and being in pain. So one thing we used to do when I used to wake up in the morning and feel like crap is we used to march around going, I'm healing, I'm healing, I'm healing. Because if, and it really is. So as I talk about it this month, I'll probably notice more elements that I forget about because they just casually live with me every day that I just forget about. And when you talk to another EDSer and you go, oh, you can do that too. And it's really cool because you start realising you're actually normal to somebody else. It's just that we've been unnormal to all you people all this time. So anyway, yeah, I shall catch you later. Join over on EDS support groups if you do have EDS. There's lots of tips on how to manage it, how to deal with it. Realise that a lot of people, we're all sort of struggling with the same sort of challenges with the system, with the education system, and medical and doctors and A&E, and there does need to be a considerable amount of training. So there's a lot more of us out there. It's just that we're battling against people not believing us, not understanding, not seeing what it is that we deal with each day, seeing us as lazy, thinking that we're just being a bit mardy. And sometimes we're just square pegging a round hole. If you put us doing something that's challenging our body all day, you know, it's going to be a bit like that. So, you know, do what you love and just keep pushing forward, really. Keep on keeping on. And I'll catch you ready on my stuff for Mother's meeting on the 12th of May. Speak later. Bye.